A woman and her husband are at a local restaurant. Even though the woman always seems to find something to complain about, they still regularly visit the restaurant because the food is good and they enjoy the atmosphere. As usual, within minutes of taking their seats, the woman calls over their waiter.
"Waiter,"
she says,
"please turn up the air conditioning. It's much too hot in here."
Minutes later, she asks the waiter to turn down the air conditioning because she's too cold. Soon, she is complaining she's getting too hot again. As their food arrives, the woman is finally silent as she eats her meal. Another customer who is sitting near the couple's table can't help but notice that at no time did the waiter show any anger. In fact, he is surprisingly patient. As the waiter walks past his table, the man calls him over and says quietly,
"I don't know how you put up with that pesky woman over there."
"Oh, it's really no bother at all,"
replies the waiter.
"We don't have an air conditioner."
An Irishman's been drinking at a pub all night. When he stands up to leave, he falls flat on his face. He tries to stand one more time, but to no avail. Again, he falls flat on his face. He figures he'll crawl outside and get some fresh air, and maybe that'll sober him up. Once outside, he stands up, and sure enough, he falls flat on his face. So, the Irishman decides to crawl the 4 blocks to his home. When he arrives at the door, he stands up and falls flat on his face. He crawls through the door into his bedroom. When he reaches his bed, he tries one more time to stand up. This time, he manages to pull himself upright, but he quickly falls right into bed. He is sound asleep as soon as his head hits the pillow. He awakens the next morning to his wife standing over him shouting,
"So you've been out drinking again?"
"Why do you say that?"
he asks innocently. His wife replies,
"The pub called. You left your wheelchair there again."
A teenage boy walks into a pharmacy to buy his first box of condoms. He doesn't really know what he's looking for, though, so he decides to ask the pharmacist his opinion.
"What can I do for you, son?"
asks the pharmacist.
"Well, I'm meeting my girlfriend's parents at dinner tonight, and she and I agreed that afterward, we'd get intimate for the first time. So, I'd like to buy some condoms, sir."
"Well, that's no problem. How many do you need?"
says the pharmacist.
"They come in 3, 6, and 12 packs.
"Well,"
replies the teen,
"I'm hoping that our first time is really awesome, so maybe I should get the 12-pack.
Later that evening, the teen arrives at his girlfriend's house and takes his seat at the dinner table. When the time for grace comes up, the boy volunteers to pray. He prays for a long time before coming to the amen. His girlfriend leans over and says,
"You didn't tell me you were so religious."
The teen replies,
You didn't tell me your dad was a pharmacist."
A farmer needed a rooster to mate with his chickens. Another farmer down the road had a rooster for sale. The farmer went to the other farmer's house to buy the rooster. The other farmer tells him,
"Here's a rooster. He will service your chickens. But watch out, he's a mating machine and he'll go after anything."
The farmer buys Brewster and takes him home. Brewster goes through the henhouse, then starts on the farmer's sheep and other barnyard animals. After a couple days of this, the farmer tells Brewster,
"You gotta slow down or you'll kill yourself."
After a week of Brewster going after every animal on the farm, the farmer comes out and sees Brewster laid out in the yard, vultures already circling. The farmer, cussing, tells the corpse of his rooster,
"I told you you'd kill yourself, you didn't slow down."
Brewster opens one eye and says,
"Shut up. They're about to land."
A mother was cleaning her 10-year-old son's bedroom one day when she found an adult bondage magazine under his mattress. She was mortified. She put the dirty magazine back under the mattress, thinking that she would show her husband when he got home from work. A few hours later, when her husband got home, she led him to their son's bedroom, pulled out the magazine, and showed it to him. He opened the magazine, slowly flicked through the pages, his eyes wide. Then, he just handed the magazine back to her without a word. So she asked him,
What do you think we should do?
The dad paused, cleared his throat, and said, I'm no expert, but I don't think you should spank him. James is walking on a downtown street one day when he sees his old high school friend Harry a little way up ahead.
Hey, Harry, how are you?
He greets his old buddy after getting his attention. Not so good, says Harry.
Why? What happened?
Asks James. Well, says Harry, I've just gone bankrupt and I've still got to feed my family. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Could have been worse.
James replies calmly.
Could have been worse.
A month or so later, James encounters Harry in a restaurant.
And how are things now?
He asks. Terrible, says Harry. Our house burned down last night.
Could have been worse.
James replies calmly.
Could have been worse.
A month later, James runs into Harry a third time.
Well, how goes it?
He asks. Oh, says Harry, things just get worse and worse. It's one tragedy after another. Now my wife has left me. James nods his head and gives his usual optimistic-seeming little smile, accompanied by his usual,
Could have been worse.
This time, Harry grabs James by the shoulders. Wait a minute, he says. I'm not going to let you off so easy this time. 3 times in the past few months we've run into one another, and every time I've told you about the latest disaster of my life. Every time you say the same thing, could have been worse. This time I want you to tell me, how could it have been any worse? James looks at Harry with a little wisp of a smile and says,
Could have been worse. Could have been me.
Once in a small jungle village, a businessman announced to the villagers that he would buy monkeys for $10 each. The villagers, knowing there were many monkeys nearby, went into the jungle and began catching them. The man bought thousands at $10 each. However, as the supply of monkeys started to diminish and they became harder to find, the villagers ceased their efforts. The businessman then announced that he would now pay $20 for each monkey. This renewed the efforts of the villagers, and they started catching monkeys again. Soon, the supply of monkeys diminished even further, and the villagers started going back to their farms. So, the businessman increased his offer to $30 per monkey. Now the supply of monkeys became so little that it was an effort to even see a monkey, let alone catch one. Finally, the businessman announced that he would buy monkeys at $50 each. However, since he needed to go to the city on some business, his assistant would now buy them on his behalf. In the absence of the businessman, the assistant told the villagers,
Look at all these monkeys in this big cage that the businessman has collected. I will sell them to you at $35 each, and when he returns from the city, you can sell them to him for $50 each.
The villagers gathered up all their savings and excitedly bought all the monkeys. The businessman and his assistant never returned. It's Sunday, and the preacher has just finished an inspiring church service. Rick, the wealthiest man in town, stands up and asks to address the congregation. The preacher isn't surprised at this. Just make it quick, Rick, he sighs.
Sure, Father,
says Rick. Rick clears his throat and addresses the audience.
I can still recall the day when I earned my first dollar,
he begins.
That same evening, I attended a church meeting where the speaker talked about his humanitarian efforts. At that moment, I had only that single dollar to my name, and I had to make a tough decision. Give it to the speaker's cause, or keep it for myself. I chose to donate it all, and I truly believe that God blessed that decision, which is why I'm a millionaire today.
He finished with a tear gleaming in his eye.
Oh, yeah?
Calls out an old woman in the audience.
I dare you to do it again!
The general and his men are looking for a place to stay one night after a long battle. After marching through the woods for some hours, they find a farm. The general knocks on the door and a farmer answers. The general says,
Excuse me, sir. I'm sorry to bother you. My men and I have been in battle all day and are very tired. Can you put us up for the night?
The farmer replies,
Well, I only have room for one of yous.
The general looks around at his 100 men and points to a young soldier.
Peters, you were wounded badly in that last battle and kept fighting. You deserve it. Step inside.
Peters steps up and stays with the farmer for the night. Now, without their buddy Peters, the men feel as depressed as ever and have no place to stay. The general and his battered soldiers continue marching. Eventually, they find a brothel. The general knocks on the door excitedly, and the head mistress answers.
Excuse me, ma'am. My men and I have been fighting a battle all day and are very tired. Can you put us up for the night? We can pay.
The mistress closes the door for a moment. She excitedly tells the prostitutes,
It's been months with no business, girls, but we have a whole caravan of handsome young soldiers waiting outside.
The girls giggle excitedly and begin to primp for all the soldiers, having gone months without any business. The mistress opens the door and tells the general,
We'd be happy to put you up for the night. How many of you are there?
The general turns around, looks at his men, and says,
Well, we now have 99 without Peters.
The mistress replies,
You're me!